invite our panel up to join Mark on the stage. We're going to start a panel discussion by getting them all to introduce themselves for 5 minutes. Again, we're going to another big, powerful quote. So, I know some of you have some slides as well that you want to go through as part of the introduction. So we've heard from Mark. Obviously, they're all being here to ask questions, answer questions. But Hamidi, would you like to introduce yourself first? Yeah, from here or there?
Am I audible?
Yeah, great, thanks.
My name is Amit Dugan. I'm a lighting designer based in India, and glad to be on this panel. You see my coach time with that light videos, and I'm only seeing it grow each and every year. So happy to be here. To start the presentation, actually I have done that, so I'm just going to be taking from where Mark had left off, and it's something which is good that I like doing is read all about it that is happening. And I actually happened to read Mark's article in one of the magazines, the lighting design applications in IES, and a couple of other magazines, and I just put together this presentation of what the future would look like. So this is a more graphical representation of what actually Mark had presented. Now, the first thing that I've seen is that when we dive into the future, what will the future look like? So first is a data and a media-driven experience. So what the future would be for lighting would be is the entire experience of lighting is going to change from data. And data is going to be, big data is going to be the thing which is going to happen in the future. And data as in what people like, what they look like, and their emotions is all going to be collected into data. And if light start responding to people's data, and that would be the experience of what the lighting would be. So we all use preset scene controls, and if these preset scene controls is all brought into data, and with a group of people like have the data would start analyzing, artificial intelligence would start analyzing what people, their likes and dislikes, and the lighting and the mode would change based on people's likes and dislikes. So that's what the visual data is going to be. And digital lighting will actually transform the entire experience of media into this whole thing of metaverse. And there's this new concept called Movieverse, where light will be an experience of the metadata is not being deleted to guys. We're going to be seeing more interactive spaces because light will actually start. Now, initially light is just for functions, but with an interactive space, light will actually start being a more an experience oriented to start delivering content, and it also start delivering delight to people. Some interaction will be the thing, and interaction would not be just through remote controls. It'll be more an embodied kind of an interaction where people's actions and words will be used for the lighting that's changing in a space. Digital thing, doing commissioning of BIM is going to be the next big thing, and which digital experience is happening. Imagine what if big models would actually be controlled actual real models. So if a lighting designer is based in one part of the world, with a BIM model, digital twin commissioning will allow the lighting designer to control the lighting of the actual space, which is in a different part of the country. So what it does to the actual circular economy is that it reduces the carbon footprint of the project, because the lighting designer doesn't have to be physically in a place to control the lighting, to have an experience of the place, because the whole virtual artificial reality will be such a realistic experience. And the person sitting in one country with VR model will actually be controlling the lighting in a space and give the same actual experience on the space. And finally, circular economy. Smart maintenance programs will be the next thing. Smart maintenance programs, meaning that the light fixture would actually give feedback to the manufacturers that, hey, I'm going to be running out, it's time to change view. So clients feel much more happier because they don't have to see light fixtures going out, because the light fixture, even before it starts going out, gives signals to the manufacturer that it's time to change. This will add to the circular economy of being a little bit more smarter maintenance for awareness.
That's welcome. Thank you, Hamidi. Would you pass the road to Faraz? I think his slides are right there. So Faraz, just in much explain. Yeah. Not on wireless.
Sure. You realize we come up, you got them.
So this would have been.
Excuse me. Hi again. Hi, everyone again. Everybody is not.
Right, so stand over here. Maybe I should have done shots. It's nothing really.
Hi, my name is Farhan. I am a senior lighting designer for the international consultants, one of the multidisciplinary consultancies in the region. And we do all sorts of architectural lighting projects in, whether it's residences, hospitality, public realm. So we are,
Sorry, please.
I don't have better well, I feel bad at this. You see that?
It's all actually.
Sorry about that. And everybody can be really helpful. Okay. Right. So, very quickly, I have here since we are talking about the AI and the deliberations. I have a very good team that's based on something that I recently discovered 3 months ago. It's taking the world, the design world by its storm, of course. Everybody is experimented with that. Lots of architects are already implementing in the concept status. So that's the generative AI technology that's going around. It's not in the summit at the moment. So what is it exactly? It's basically what you essentially are doing is that you are talking to a doctor in a very simple, simplistic language, in a very simplistic applicational tone, and asking it to draw you nice, proper, directors, proper images, which kind of visually represent your ideas, your visions, or a specific particular project. So the good thing about it is that you get to experiment a lot, you get nice images, you can use it in your project presentations, the initial narratives, the concept narratives. It's a lot to experiment, it's a lot to explore. That what happens is that you tell it something, you specifically tell it like in a particular way, and what it does is that it takes your information and then it extrapolates it to the contextual side. So the final image that comes out is absolutely outstanding. You can visualize the future, you can explore the past. The first two images that you see on the top are just a vision of an organic city. Is the future of a Phoenix city with lots of idealistic going on. Down there you see some 4th and 17th century Rajasthan, which is great in India. So what you can do is you can explore the ideas based on architectural styles, based on what you call even the style of the architects, based on the time period. You can explore everything. You can combine a couple of links and you can experiment on it. In particular, because I am using it for lighting images, to generate the lighting images which are relevant to the projects, to the project directives, to the early consent status. So at this point in time, what we do have is a little bit of control on it when it comes to generating nice images, but you cannot have full control of what it's still a very fast developing technology. It's still developing as we speak, and I'm not sure what the future is, but I would say that we're going to see this a lot. We're going to see this getting streamlined into our regular workflows. Right now, you can use it to generate concept images, or even for if you're doing any luminaire prototyping, you can give it your ideas and it can produce some very nice images. The thing is that it's not just because it's AI, it's not just limited to the human bias. It can think from the things that a human mind is not able to do, and it gives you much better ideas that a human mind could go. The future remains to be seen. Still, it's at all fast. Right now, it's just mainly used for storytelling, for generating good characters. In the future, we can see this getting streamlined into our regular workflows. Our people talked about the BIM integration, so it might be happening that it is soon integrated into the BIM workflows somehow. And it has potential to be a much more powerful tool than it is at the moment. I think that more and more lighting designers, in fact, design field as such, they would be kind of seeing more and more of this in the regular workforce. Thank you.
Like Netherlands as an option. Okay, nice.
However,
I can invest in security with Iowa. I need to. So that's okay. This is cycle slide. You learn it solve it. Oh, sorry, Regina couldn't be here today, unfortunately. So, Manas?
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Carlos Bonio, and I am an architect and junior associate at Art Studio, New Delhi, India. And at Art Studio, we work at the intersection of art, architecture, and technology. And most of our designs they are directly influenced by nature. And we try to bridge the gap between that sort of coexistence of architecture with nature through the help of modern computational designs. Recently, I have been working with generative AI and or the popular tools like Midjourney and Dall-E and Dream Studio to visualize certain projects as to how architecture of the future will be shaped and looking at the sustainability issues, looking at the global warming and other problems of the world. So few of my projects, like one of my projects which was titled Future Cities. So in that I used the AI to actually visualize skyscrapers of the future, which can actually act as potential air purification towers for the entire city. So we already have like tall skyscrapers that we have in our space structure. So why not cover that up with foliage and make it green infrastructure so that it can actually help reduce the air quality of crowns. And second project which I did, which received a lot of popularity, was symbiotic architecture, in which I actually tried to ask a few questions, like what if buildings of the future can actually breathe, and what if the buildings that can actually grow, and they start mimicking how natural systems are like they exist in the nature. So like, what if we have so, what if we have areas which are directly inspired from the morphology and it actually heals itself? So we already have some prototypes in that field which we call as bioradiance. And also inspired from that kind of a area, can we actually create regular facades which not only cuts the heat that enters a building, but also it gives a very real fresh air. It actually cools the interior spaces. So all these questions we have actually been working on at our studio, and with the help of these modern AI tools, it's very easy to churn out concepts and designs that actually we can visualize these concepts and how the architecture will be shaped. So right now we are using these tools as a mere sketchpad, I would say, and we're generating these concepts. But I think the future of AI is tremendous, and even in the logistics and supply chain, and even in the system integration, like putting sensors on the facade, and even in the lighting industry, controlling how sustainable our lighting systems are. So everything will be really efficient and with help of AI. And also, if I were to speak about the entire design process, there is a certain thought to execution today, which I think every designer faces, because you have an idea, but then you get down to 3D modeling softwares and you make the drawings. So initially, the idea which you had, it actually goes out for a toss. So you'll work around in 3D for a couple of hours and then you'll reach there. So with the help of AI, that design process is also becoming much more faster and efficient. And yeah, I think it has great potential in shaping all the design industry on the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Manas. Thank you. Okay, so that's the introduction. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to get you guys used to putting your hands up for a bit. So, how many of you are experimenting with AI? Put your hand up if you're experimenting with AI. Okay, that is not very many. How many of you are working on projects that have digital twins? Okay, a few more, it's getting better. How many of you are working on projects where the digital control is linked to physical sensors? Okay, it's getting a bit better. Okay, so what we've got up here is a quote that's from Kevin Kelly, the author of The Inevitable. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I've sort of thought of when I read this quote, is do you think that AI will be able to be trained to do lighting design. So not generate images, actually do the design process. That's
The way it is developing, it's moving fast. Right now, it's just, I would say that it's kind of an automated Photoshop, but in the future, there might be a possibility that we tell it that, okay, this is the space, this is my image, this is my plan, this is my model, do the lighting. And we just kind of just instruct it, instruct it to do it as per what our requirements are, what are the project requirements. So it's not impossible, I would say. It's something which might come maybe in the near future, maybe in the far future, nobody knows, but it is possible.
Thank you. Any questions in the audience before I get started? Interested on that? You get that microphone up there?
Okay. Hi. Quick question. So I just wanted to understand how exactly does this, is it like a software or what exactly is it?
It's just a computer interface. What you do is you just explain it to, see, the thing is that there are various programs. Manas also mentioned about Midjourney, Dall-E, Dream Studio. I particularly will work with a program called Midjourney where you can literally narrate in a very simplistic language what you want to see. Literally, what essentially happening is that you are asking a bot for a role play. You basically, whatever you want to imagine, you tell that bot to be in the same situation. You narrate and imagine yourself that you are in this particular scenario, in this environment. There is an organic building, there is a nice public realm, public square somewhere on the front or at the back, and then there is just in a very simplistic terms, you fill it, and it starts generating images for you. Then you can further start tweaking them. If you don't like any output, you can start tweaking them. It gives the options. You can play with the parameters, you can play with the language. It's literally using the language as the cognitive role.
So basically it's also on developing the architecture along with the light.
It is. And you describe the architecture as well. You tell it to build you maybe an art deco building, a proposed Renaissance building, and you got that. It will build it for you, whatever it is, whatever you want it to be. It will build the model and then it will implement the lighting effects the way you want it to be. You don't have a very great control at this point in time, but the thing is that it's understanding, it's learning fast. The understanding is getting better, and particularly with the recent release of 24, it seems like that the bots have literally done a crash course in lighting 101. They are understanding the lighting techniques, they're understanding about color temperatures, they're understanding various aspects of lighting, different kind of techniques that we usually go for.
So you actually narrate to it.
Literally narration.
Yes,
It's a system narration.
Thank you, Grace. Mark, you also put a slide up about the lorry drivers and that maybe losing their jobs when the automated trucks are on the road. Do you think that's something we need to be thinking about in our profession?
It's interesting. I think the lighting designers, even with AI, at least for the next decade or so, are going to be critical because they can design exactly what the customer needs. And that's what we heard from Faraz here is that they haven't progressed yet to the point where we can trust it to do that. It can generate, and I worked with Dall-E myself, and it can generate a number of concepts from what you type in. But as you pointed out, they're not quite there yet for realism. So I would think lighting designers are fairly secure. Distributors, we're still going to need them. The traditional lighting companies probably will be assimilated by the electronics, telecoms, and internet companies. But we'll just have new companies to work with. No offense to manufacturers in the room. But the way that it's going right now, it's not a lot of innovation in the lighting pipeline.
Beautiful. Please, thank you, one of the rebels. Any questions? Yes, please. Sharon, question that?
Yes, light. testing. You just touched on a point about technology companies, because with smart buildings, there's no one protocol. And the lighting industry doesn't seem to be able to play nice to get there with one protocol that works for all. And the big fear with all the data that can be collected in smart buildings is that the Googles as well and the Apples will beat them to it. And that's then about cha-ching. That's about less about opportunity and more about money-making opportunities. Where's the humanity? You know, we were talking just a second ago, and that's something I'm all for this AI and what it can do and how it can assist and how it can better present ideas. But I don't think, you know, for all the virtual conferences we did during lockdown, you can't beat this. We can't be replaced on the ship.
Sure. David, it's going to be very difficult to program humanity into an algorithm. This is going to be, I mean, they're dealing with that with autonomous vehicles right now. Do you kill one person to save three? Right, that's a real moral issue, right? You are, I believe, absolutely correct that the companies that seem to be able to move forward with controls of devices, and the electronics companies and the internet companies like Google and Apple, they have a vested interest in making all of the disparate devices that we have in our homes and businesses connect and work together well. The lighting companies don't seem to be very far down that path. There doesn't seem to be a lot of progress. And of course, the deep pockets are with companies like Samsung and of course Google and Apple. Apple has lighting patents already. They design their own lighting for their stores. It's patent luminaires and everything is theirs. They have more incentive and more resources to move forward, but they will not initially be concerned with quality. I mean, that's what the Illuminating Engineering Society's whole focus is the quality of the illuminated environment. They won't have that concern. Cha-ching will be the concern. And we're hearing it already. I was at a smart lighting conference in Milan a few years ago, and every speaker who came up to talk about their products, like sensors, for example, they said to the audience, you know, lighting's easy. Wait till you deal with my stuff, right? Well, that's a consumer perspective. Consumers don't know enough about lighting, because we talk amongst ourselves, to really understand what quality of lighting is, and that extends to these new manufacturers, and they're going to need to be educated on it, and hopefully they'll be receptive.
Thank you, David. Sharon?
Hi, Q. I just have a couple of things. One was when you generate concept images using AI, we've experimented with it in my team. But one of the things that I've observed, I just wanted to check that you agreed, is that the concept images are just that. They can break the laws of physics, so we do need to be quite careful to use them just as concept images for discussion, not to lead a client into thinking that that's going to be achievable, because it might not be physically possible in terms of the physics of light. And then the second thing was about what's left when AI replaces light designers. And one of the things that I was wondering about was empathy, and we need to design with empathy for what our clients need. And from where I'm sitting, I'm really excited about AI, but I think it's very good at mimicking empathy, but I don't think it actually can replicate. Do you agree, or I'd like to hear what you think about that?
No, sister.
The most definitely can say that empathy cannot be replicated by machines, because AI certainly doesn't have a consciousness. Consciousness is a very abstract thing, but that's what it is. That's what makes us all human. So I'm not exactly sure whether AI could replicate it, but I do believe in this whole convergence on technologies, and where the humans and AI could converge to building something which is more interesting. And one of my favorite subjects of design is the UX design, which is user experience design. And that's what I think will be the future of lighting design too, where we could make these images, and that's what it's all about, user experience, about scripting, storyboarding, and then simulating. So we actually understand what the users are. We create a script for the users, and then you make a storyboard, and then you simulate using AI. So there's a great convergence of human empathy, consciousness, and the technology, what it offers with AI, and that would be the future is what we will make.
Thank you. And did you want to say something on that too?
Is it working?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as far as the practicality is concerned of these designs, AI is like a superpower that you have. So you can use the superpower to actually explore like the possibilities of future architecture, or you can limit yourself with what exists in the world, and make designs according to those restrictions, which obviously which architecture is all about that. It has, you have to fit the design within a brief. So I think that brief has to be set by the user, and the AI, the AI is actually blind, so it will just follow what you actually give it, give the input. So as far as the practicality is concerned, I think we can use the AI to create practical designs, as well as we can use the AI to actually push our imagination. And technology, it keeps improving itself. 10 years ago, we were new to the world of parametric architecture, and now I think every other design firm is trying to build something organic, something parametric using the model tools. So I think in the next 10 years, what we are talking about as being very imaginative can actually be made possible. So yeah, that way I think it has answered the question.
Thank you, Manas. Mark, did you want to answer that?
Just quickly, Amardeep and Manasa, I believe they're absolutely correct. But if we move a little bit further in the future, what defines consciousness? You said they aren't AIs conscious. It isn't consciousness. But we just saw a projection from Ray Kurzweil that it will be by 2029 if the Turing test is a measure of consciousness. The Turing test basically, if I sit down with a robot and I try to communicate with this bot, can I tell whether it's human or not? Well, emotions would have to be a part of that, wouldn't they? So he's saying 2029, they could assume consciousness based on the Turing test. That's arguably accurate. If that's the case, then that all changes. But we won't know when we get there. That's the one.
I might have shared focus on that.
I'm just wondering, about anyone involved in education, are these kinds of softwares and these discussions being sort of added to like lighting education syllabuses or not yet?
Lighting education, not too, but some of the other fields like interaction design, this is definitely the education design. Not sure about the other lighting experience courses to be there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that to get the information that you need, you often have to leave the lighting community and go to the peripheral technologies that are converging with us to understand these better. I talk in more depth on the subject, but as far as courses in education and lighting, I really haven't seen much on it.
That actually leads me to stealing one of your questions from earlier, Sharon. And I'll start with you first. Where should the audience go to find out more information? What resources would you share with them?
I particularly use Midjourney, so you can easily search the internet for Midjourney, and it will give you very easy instructions. And I would think that everybody who is into the design field and even manufacturing field, if you are designing prototypes on the fixtures, it's a good thing to explore. I would say, give it a shot. You never know, you might be hooked to it. And the thing is that, adding to the points that were discussed just earlier, you would always need a human behind an AI interface. So that is not going to change. Thankfully, right now at this point in time, there is no text to lighting design interface here. It's just text to it. But even if that comes in the near future, you would always have people sitting behind that bot, giving it instructions, giving the human conscious feel and empathy in the instruction system. So that's what I wanted to add on the previous one. So we're just that's how it works.
Now, Manav, I have a question for you. You're an architect, correct? Since you are already using a lot of these technologies, do you use a lighting consultant ever on your projects?
Yeah.
You do.
We do use lighting consultants, yeah, of course.
Okay, so it is not that with AI coming in, you can do without having a lighting consultant.
No, I mean, see, there are different consultants on board in all the projects, right? Like there are sustainability consultants, there are MEP consultants, there are lighting consultants. So even if I have the AI technology, I wouldn't become a lighting consultant today. I will always stick to my core field and my competence, which is the architecture itself. So I would actually prefer some lighting consultant who's probably using AI, and you take the plan and you design it for me. So yeah.
Okay, but I think in the future, if these things are getting evolved more and more, do you think the dependence on a lighting consultant would be less from your perspective? I'm not talking in general, but since what you mentioned that by 2029 it's going to be really advanced with a lot of empathy built into AI, what do you think?
So, see, as an architect, I have undergone that kind of a training for 5 years, and I know all there is to know about architecture, but I haven't been trained as a lighting consultant ever. So, even if I have all the technology in the world which can assist me, I would always look up to a professional who knows about that industry much more than I do. So, yeah.
Well, did you want to?
Yeah, that's just well, I think I got a little feedback in it. I struggle a little bit with where we're all headed with this, because you can anticipate the trajectory of where the industry is headed. That's just information. If you know about these products, you can anticipate that this is almost inevitable, like the metaverse right now. It's almost inevitable. But you can't anticipate the velocity, the speed of change, because there's too many variables, not just pandemics, but lots of other variables that can really throw a curveball in. So it's hard to say. In terms of design, there are a lot of manufacturers doing lighting design, basic stuff, parking lots, they follow formulas, they do. I know one company that I used to work with, they were doing 6,000 of those a year for their customers, right? Well, that would be easy. Now, as far as needing a lighting designer for the empathy aspect, I do remember when Amazon started, and people said it's never going to succeed because it's a relationship building industry. You need to have relationships with people to sell products like that. But as it turns out, for the last decade or so, Amazon has been one of the top 5 most trusted companies, according to the surveys that are done. People have built a relationship with something that isn't human, and they trust it. So, could that happen with AI? We have precedent on it, so perhaps.
Thank you, Matt. We've got a question.
Well, Amazon does.
Yeah, so
They need, well, certainly does need to be that casting. And the whole thousands.
It's Chuck Berry's.
Wow.
Yes, amazing.
Hello, my name is Dana, and my question is towards Mark. I believe they're working in the relating to your society, and I feel this question has been raised last year. Now, the future of light involves a large amount of artificial intelligence, and that's evident. But what kind of technology is incorporated in this artificial intelligence? That's the kind of question I want to know. Now, LED, it's worth mentioning that they're the most sustainable, right? They are common and they last an technology. But I believe we're heading to a new kind of technology like laser technology, which might be incorporated with this AI. And when I study about laser technology, I find a lot of advantages compared to LEDs. Like they're more coherent, they're more sustainable, and I believe they do have a future in the lighting industry. I believe that we haven't talked about lasers as much as AI. Now we need to be familiar also with the technology that we will be using, because lighting design will drastically change with the different kind of technology. And I believe Shoji Nakamura, the one who invented LEDs, have founded a company called SLT Lasers that talk about laser technology. And I think nowadays they're using this technology with BMW and with Audi cars, which I believe is brilliant because the brightness, it's very coherent. It has no droop. It's very sustainable, and I really want to see more articles and journals about laser technology and how we're heading towards that, new era.
Sure. I've spoken to Suji about this. I know him, and I have, in fact, on the IES website, there's an hour-long interview that I've done with him. Lasers with SLD laser did not approach checkpoint illumination in any way. In fact, they found that automotive, like you mentioned, BMW and others, was really their primary target. It's only very recently that we've seen good white lasers, which would be something that we could use in architectural lighting. Initially, at least, those will be, or they will take most advantage of the characteristic of the laser, which is that extremely narrow beam, right? Kyocera has a really interesting illumination laser right now that they're showing and selling that throws an extremely narrow beam for mall businesses. That could be useful. I mean, I could see where it would be. Lasers have a ways to go yet in terms of efficiency and longevity, but there's potential for them. And optically, you could spread the beam, but the price of LEDs is so low, and the market has accepted price and performance levels right now. There's not a lot of incentive for people to look for a new general light source, particularly in an area that's so expensive as the laser technology. The chips are not expensive, by the way. Even Osram makes laser chips, the ones that go into cars and things. They're not very expensive. I've played with them before, but it's the attribute of the narrow beam that'll first be emphasized. Whether someone is able to get economies of scale to the point where you can put an optic on it and get general illumination, we haven't seen it yet. But I sure wouldn't rule out any possibilities for what could happen.
Yeah, so I do. Any more questions from the audience? And we talked about some different technologies. Like you mentioned blockchain in your presentation with reference to crypto, but obviously blockchain technology can be many other things as well. Does anybody see any applications of blockchain technology within lighting? Specification, design, products? Leading question.
Well, blockchain is the reason that the metaverse will succeed. Blockchain is the basis of trust in the metaverse, right? So from that standpoint, really it's primarily cryptocurrency right now. But if the metaverse is built on blockchain, then the projections right now is the web #1, the first internet, was, most of us remember when that came in, this profiling ages here, but most of us remember that. Web 2, the second evolution of the web, was when we could transfer documents and media and music and film. Web 3 is when you will transfer ownership of things because you will trust who you're dealing with, because blockchain will put timestamps. They use these cryptographic hashes to create timestamps that are then decentralized and distributed to a number of different servers so that the first timestamp really can't be modified or changed later. It establishes a basis of trust. So it could be used elsewhere. It certainly could be used in this. I'd love to see libraries use it, just because modifying history has certainly happened, revisionist history. But there's no reason that it couldn't move to lighting when it hasn't progressed to the point yet where it's immediately applicable.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, I've got a lead question. Firstly, I see it applied maybe to digital product passports, so you can track the circularity and the different materiality. We're going to sort of close down now, but I guess what I would just ask you each from this end, but just one quick closing statement as what you think is going to be the most impactful in what you think on lighting from all the things we've talked about today, either for you as a practice, as a designer, or a general. What do you think is the most important thing that's going to affect you?
The progress of these programs, I'm working with them at the moment right now at the very initial narrative stage, concept stage. What remains to be seen is that where we go from here, how do these develop into more advanced programs, how do these develop into, how do these integrate into the other softwares that we are using for actual design process. So I think when that starts to happen, I'm watching that space. I think that would be most of my thing for myself, and speaking for myself as a designer. I might get into it, I might start exploring it the way I started exploring Windows. So yeah, let's see what it says.
Thank you, Alex. Now that's you one.
Yeah, I think these technologies will really help people express themselves in the future. And coming from a personal experience, like when I was at my university and I lacked the knowledge of what software is, and I was using the conventional methods. So if I wanted to design something really futuristic, really crazy, I had to wait for like a longer duration to actually come up with one render that explain my visualization. But as these technologies grow, I think I have found that I am able to express myself better and much faster. And I think that is the key point for me here. That you need to express yourself and the ability to be yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Personally, as a lighting designer, what I feel the next thing would be, again, borrowing Mark's word, which is convergence of skills. As lighting designers, we can't just be specializing in lighting anymore. We need to broaden our skills. We need to look at, like I said, interaction design, user experience design, building technology, building management systems. All forms of technology that are related to design. I think education has to be broadened beyond lighting. That's what it would be as a future. We will be ready for the future. That's what it's going to be.
Thank you, Omri. Mark, last key takeaway for the audience.
For me, in terms of technology, it's fairly clear. The most disruptive we're going to see is quantum computing, and it will affect everything. There are many futurists that are speculating that quantum computing will be the most disruptive change that has been experienced in over a century. I don't doubt that. I am startled by the speed of change. To go from 53 qubits in 2019 to billions of qubits now. Initially, the first quantum computers I saw at IBM they required extreme cold. I mean, it was massive amounts of energy to keep them so cold that they could function. There's a company that's overcome that. Now they function at room temperature. Think of anything you do, if you can move something in seconds that took 10,000 years for a supercomputer, breaking codes and passwords and all of that, it just is, it's going to be frightening for a lot of people. MIT is already working on this, but I can tell you that nobody has it solved yet. But the quantum computers are probably going to come before the solution to how we deal with this speed that they're capable of analyzing and bringing things to act.
Thank you very much. Round of applause for our panel, please.